This is Power BI and More with Business Solutions MVPs Scott Sewell and Joel Lindstrom. This episode of Power BI and More is sponsored by CRMUG. The user group for Dynamics 365 and CRM community is powered by users, for users, and specializes in the delivery of member-driven education, networking, and events to help you maximize your current Microsoft Dynamics investment. We thank Dynamics 365 UG for sponsoring Power BI and More.
I'm down here in Houston, Texas today with a big oil and gas customer. They're deploying, I think they said about 800 Power BI users to replace an existing Spotfire implementation. And so we've been training about, I think there's 40 people in there right now training. And of course I skipped out. And since I'm in Houston, I have a breakfast taco. So that's a good thing.
The best breakfast taco I ever had was in San Antonio. They know how to make them there. It's not like Sonic drive-through.
Well, San Antonio is not far. I go up there and see Larry. But yeah, so anyway, so I'm down here in Houston and got some people fired up about Power BI. It's fun.
So I was going to say, I've been reading the book Dead Wake, The Last Crossing of the Lusitania by Eric Larson. And if you ever want to branch out on your analytics of people who died in maritime disasters, you might want to consider the Lusitania.
Lusitania and Edmunds Fitzgerald, all kinds of opportunity there. You know.
Well, it's funny because some of the people who missed going on the Titanic were on the Lusitania. Like there was a Vanderbilt. One of the Vanderbilts was on the Lusitania, and he had missed his trip on the Titanic. And there was one guy who was on the was supposed to be on the Titanic, missed it. Was supposed to be on Lusitania, missed it, and died on the Hindenburg.
Oh man, how terrible! How terrible! It's like, what is that? What was that movie that I forget, whatever the movie was, that it was like constantly they were trying to get you, but yeah,
it's called Bad Day or something.
Something like that, probably. But yeah, that's harsh. I don't mean to laugh.
So what's new with Power BI?
Dude, there's so much new happening, and there's two pieces that have come out recently, and one of them is it. When I first heard it, I thought, okay, I thought I had that, but then a little more I looked at it, the cooler this actually is, and it's access to you can provide access to your environments through what's called Azure Active Directory business-to-business collaboration, effectively giving guest access to your environment with authentication and everything. So let's say that you and I happen to work for a large consulting organization, and we have a dashboard built for a project that we're working on. And we're working really closely with a customer, and they've got their own Active Directory environment separate from ours and everything. You know, we could build this dashboard that tracks the progress of our project, and everything's cool there. And we could invite people from the client organization to view and participate in that or use that Power BI environment. But what's different is I don't have to create an account for them anymore in my environment. I just say, hey, Joe at acme.corp, I'll invite you. And as long as you can authenticate to Active Directory, Azure Active Directory, and as long as you have your own Power BI license, you'll now have visibility and consume this dashboard that I created and shared to you. A little different from what we've done in the past, where you either give somebody else if you had to share something to somebody externally, you would either publish it to web and make it, basically unsecured available, which I wouldn't recommend, but you could either publish it that way, or you could create instead of Joe at acme.com, he would open a new browser and go Joe at Hitachi Joe Acme at Hitachi.com, whatever. So he would log into my domain so he could see the stuff that's in my domain. This whole Azure to Azure business to business feature is a fairly new feature in Azure, and I'm gonna beg off in terms of how deep to go on that, but it is available. It's a new feature, and Power BI has jumped on board very quickly and said, let's take advantage of being able to share dashboards in a business to business sort of collaboration with people outside of that. Now that if I'm reading everything correctly, that doesn't allow me to share it to somebody with a live ID, with just a generic Windows Live account. I can't share it to your Hotmail account. But
Right.
if you're in a corporate environment and that environment has, let's say that you're already either a CRM user, a CRM Online user, or Office 365 user, then you're already set up to log in and authenticate to Azure. That would then allow me to share this dashboard with you. And again, assuming that you have your own license, you can consume it just fine. Very cool stuff.
And this uses Azure AD B2B, which was introduced in November.
Yes.
And so basically it's similar to what Microsoft Teams and Dynamics 365 can do as well. And so basically, if I understand this right, you can add external users, and if they have either a premium or a professional license, they can access things that you give them rights to on your system. So it's the ideal scenario would be for, let's say a manufacturing company has suppliers and they want to give the suppliers access to the dashboards, but don't want to add them as users in their Active Directory. As long as that supplier has Azure Active Directory, Office 365, they can give them access to it.
Yeah. So just to slight qualification on that, the licensing, if that person, and as you and I work in a consulting organization where we're constantly working with external companies with their own environment, and that's just a normal part of business. And a lot of companies like the one we're doing training for today deal with tons of subcontractors, and each one of those subcontractors has their own environment. And so this is really a boon for that kind of a relationship that just exists in the world today. The natural, what really actually happens in the real world. The question about the licensing, if I have a Power BI dashboard and I share it to somebody externally and they have their own Power BI Pro license, then everything's golden. If they don't have their own license, and on my end, I can create use Power BI Premium, and that Power BI Premium is in the host organization's capacity. So I say, I'm going to publish this to Power BI Premium. That allows me to share this dashboard to people internally that don't have a Power BI license, or people now externally that don't have a Power BI license. So the Power BI Premium, covers the licensing either way.
Yeah. I mean, it's amazing
cool
to think how much things have changed, because I'm looking in my drawer and I have like 4 old dead RSA dongles. You remember when we used to have to work on a client's environment? They'd usually send you some kind of an RSA dongle or send you your own laptop that was on their domain. Now, it's in many cases much more fluid for customers that are on the Microsoft Cloud. They just need to add us in using our existing login to Azure AD, give us guest access so we can go to town.
Yeah. So this is great. Exactly. It's the evolution of what business to business sharing is like these days. It's great.
Right.
So yeah, it's been an interesting evolution. And again, you could have in the past, like I said, created a guest account inside, like for instance, in the Hitachi to Acme Corp relationship, we could have created a custom, a separate ID internally just to do that. But then you get this weird thing of then you expect your external person to keep track of that, like all those dongles in your the RSA keys, or then you also have to keep track of managing it when somebody in the external environment leaves. You don't necessarily recognize that immediately, and so they still have access to the project data, even though they're no longer working for the company that you're intending it to be shared to. So it cuts out a lot of security questions there by handling it this way as opposed to sort of this halfway approach of using the guest accounts in the past. So really nice feature there. Separate and apart from that, another thing that happened this week, actually, it was kind of funny. We rolled out, we got in the room for training Monday morning, first thing Monday morning, and said, all right, let's start downloading the thing. And about half the class had started downloading, and I noticed that that Power BI has released I'll call it the December update, because it was released today. It's effectively the accumulation of the October and November feature set. So if you haven't updated Power BI desktop, go ahead and take an update on it, because there's some nice features that have been added to the environment. And I've been playing with a pre-release version of it, and there was a couple things that they worked out. I think that's why it slipped a little bit in the delivery date. But new features available. One of the things that I'm actually very happy about, the B2B external access is part of that picture. I think that was on the service side that it was enabled, but that's part of this release. There's now an ability to do selective publish for Power BI apps. So take the example of, maybe I have a project dashboard, a set of project dashboards, and one is timeline, one is budget, one is resource allocation, and a third one is on let's call it like bug reports, right? So I've got these 4 dashboards, and I'm starting to build my fourth one, that bug report. I'm halfway through building it, but the project manager comes back and says, there's a problem with the timeline one. We need that one updated immediately. In the past, I would be in a bind because I was only able to publish all or nothing to an app. Well, now I can selectively say, publish these 3, but don't publish this one that I'm halfway finished with, and keep that out of the app. So there's a little bit more control there that we used to have. And so that selective publish is a nice feature that they've added in allowing us to move things in a little bit more. It's kind of like in the old days with CRM, where you could either publish the organization or not. Right. Now we can actually publish, just like in CRM, you can publish an entity. Now we can publish, we can say these 4 things are included, but the 5th one is not included yet. I'm not going to turn that one on.
The apps is something we haven't really talked about before. I guess that was introduced in the springtime of 2017. And is the idea of an app grouping together multiple dashboards and components together into one focused app module like we have in CRM now?
Yeah, I wouldn't. Yeah, it's kind of like that. I mean, there's a parallel there. It's the reports, dashboards, the data sets, and they all kind of go into a distribution group. So you can make a team a member of a distribution group, or like an office group, and publish the app, make them a part of this app. Then they can pull it in and consume everything that's involved. It's kind of like a container of related, like I said, dashboards, reports, workbooks, data sets. All those things can be sort of self-contained into a package, and you can manage that package together. Security.
So when would you do just a dashboard standalone versus putting it in an app?
I think the recommended approach is now towards apps. If I was publishing it for myself, a personal dashboard, or maybe it was just one that I was, it was a super secret dashboard that I was just working with you and me on. It's just 2 of us. Maybe I just publish it and I do it and I share it to you. That's fine. But if I start saying I'm going to share this to all the delivery leads or all the architects at our organization, instead of trying to share it individually to those folks, and to keep it all from sort of getting thrown into the same big bucket of, where it's finance apps and there's our finance dashboards and project dashboard, and then there's some crazy person threw a Titanic dashboard out there too. You start grouping and identifying which ones of these you want to subscribe to. And as a user, I can go in and say, I want to add this app to my workspace. And I can look on there and say, oh, there's the Acme project app. Let me add that one because I'm a part of that project, or I want to see everything that's going on there. But the one that's for Contoso, I'm not interested in that project at all. I know Joel's working on it, so I'm not going to worry about it at all. So I'm not going to add that one to so there's a little bit of ability to do control what you're adding to your environment. If I share a dashboard to you, you can't, it's like sharing a view. If I share it to you, you can't unshare it away from yourself. So there's a little bit of adding better control. And so I'd say apps really work well for publishing content that all kind of relates to itself and is going to be consumed by the same group of folk focused on a certain area. So
I just wish they wouldn't overuse the word app so much, because if you say Power BI app, people are going to think mobile Power BI app. So that's why I distinguish in the CRM world app versus app module. So I think that's something similar. Because you could literally use the word app 10 times in one sentence, and no one would know what you're talking about. Yeah,
it's like buffalo.
Exactly.
So app. So there's some there's that control that's been added. There's now a subscription button. You can subscribe to an app. And then once as a report gets updated, it will email you a change to that one. So if you have a dashboard that gets refreshed once a week, it'll send you you can do an email subscription to it. I was actually talking to one of the customers last night, and we were talking over apps at dinner. Appetizers. So more apps, fish taco apps. So we're talking about this, and he was describing a situation where for their people in the field, this is an older petrochem customer, and an older organization that's been around for a long time, huge organization, and they, like a lot of old school organizations, they rely a lot of things on email. In their case, it kind of makes sense because a lot of their folks are in the field, and they're not in front of their laptop. They're not logging in, kind of managing that from a desktop orientation, and they rely on being able to forward out emails of prime metrics for a different team member. So you're working the Texas region. And so every Monday morning you get an email with metrics about Texas. And, Suzanne over here is working the Oklahoma region, and she opens up an email every morning, and every Monday morning gets the numbers for Oklahoma. Well, we're talking about whether you can do the same thing in Power BI. And although you could create a subscription and have it that's not really Power BI's. That's not its orientation, but that's exactly what SSRS is meant to do. That's what SSRS does beautifully. And we talked about doing a hybrid approach where we say, okay, every Monday morning, SSRS is going to generate, here's the high level metrics that apply to your data-driven subscription. And it goes out to you, and then attached below that is a hyperlink to the Power BI dashboard, where if you want to know more, you can click here and then interact and slice and dice the data, and really give them a hybrid approach, which is kind of using the two products for what they're really, really good at, as opposed to making them, putting sort of square pegs in round holes. Using the two of those together will be very powerful for them. So anyway, the nice advantages on those two things.
This has been the Power BI and More podcast with Business Solution MVPs Scott Sewell and Joel Lindstrom. This podcast is a production of Dynamic Podcasts, LLC. Follow Scott Sewell on Twitter @Scott Sewell, Subscribe to the CRM Audio network of podcasts on Apple Podcasts, Google Play Music, SoundCloud, Stitcher, TuneIn, or any place else that fine podcasts are available. You can email us at voice@crm.audio. Thanks again to our sponsors, Kingsway Soft and Alexa CRM.